Hi, my name is Jessica and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I talk all things books, photography, lifestyle, all the things, so we're getting there. I know it's been a minute since I've uploaded a video, but I'm trying to get into a consistent pattern in the vlog that I hope to post.
Uh-oh. CAP.
And I'm filming it as we speak. It will explain a lot of what has been happening. I have been busy with work, all the things, and that's good stuff. A lot of freelance projects. But, however, we're going to get into the books, and we're going to be talking about some of my favorite authors and where I feel you should start if you're looking to get into their catalog. First up, we have Jesmyn Ward, and I think everybody should start off with Emezi Reed. Her memoir is excellent. It really does give some, I guess I would say, more information into her writing style and the subject matters that she deals with within her writing. Throughout her writing, you'll see a through line of grief, pretty much. And I think that really stems from how her life in her memoir, how it has been impacted. Unfortunately, she lost her brother alongside his 3 friends, and who were also her friends who she grew up with and she had close connection with. And I think when we're talking about grief, people don't understand how much of an impact that takes on your life and how that may warp everything, or not warp, but change everything in life, how you see things. And I think Jesmyn does an excellent job of writing about grief and talking about grief in a way that is just so beautiful, but also a raw experience. And I think everybody should start with Emezi Reed because it will inform all the work to follow pretty much in her whole entire catalog. I love James McBride. He is one of our most treasured authors out there, and he's just doing it so excellent work to me personally. And I see a lot of people start with the Heaven and Earth grocery store, or that's his most recent one. So I see people starting there, but personally to me, you should start with The Color of Water. The Color of Water, Black man's tribute to his white mother, I think is an excellent memoir because it really does open your eyes to why he writes about the things that he writes about, and you see the influence throughout his work. So far of what I've read, right? And with this book, I see a lot of people reading the Heaven and Earth grocery store first as their first introduction into his catalog. I think the memoir helps you understand the Heaven and Earth grocery store even more, just because of a lot of the things that he talks about in this book, growing up as a biracial man, as well as coming from his mother being Jewish. It's a whole thing where it really does show why he centered certain things in the Heaven and Earth grocery store. As well as Deacon King Kong, you can see some of that influence as well. I always say James McBride writes how he plays because he's a musician, and you can see the sing-songness of his writing. You can see it can be a little bit difficult for people. So I say start with The Color of Water is a great place to start. I think honestly starting at any point in your catalog, at any point in any author's catalog is excellent. But I think starting with the first book is a great entry point for anybody trying to get into an author's catalog. Next up, Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison is one of the great. I will say I started reading Toni Morrison more so in my early 20s. I wasn't too hip to Toni because I was like, girl, this writing is elevated, right?
Ooh, there's a lot going on.
Now that my reading has grown so much, I have such a deep appreciation and love for the work that Toni Morrison has. I have such a deep appreciation and love for Toni Morrison because her writing is so stellar. It takes you on a journey. It challenges you. It calls you in and it calls you out. You know what I mean? So I think starting with the easiest book to me In a close tie would be The Bluest Eye, but Sula would be my first choice for everybody. I read this last year, and I'm like, why didn't I start with this book first? I started with Beloved. I think that might be her hardest book yet so far from what I've read, and I've read 4 so far. Yeah, I think so. I think I've read 4 Toni Morrison books so far, so I'm making my way through it. But nonetheless, I think Sula is such an easy book. Well, not easy, it's still a difficult book, but I think it's a more palatable book for anybody that's looking to get into Toni Morrison's work. I think Sula is an excellent start. It is juicy, it has all the tea, but it also tells you what needs to be told about the purpose of the book. It really does makes you think while also being like enthralled with the premise of the book, right? And I don't want to give too much away because once I start talking about it, we're just going to go down a rabbit hole. But I think everybody should start with Sula. Next, Akwaeke and Emezi. I actually started with their first book automatically, Freshwater. Akwaeke Emezi, again, is one of the best writers of our generation. Easily. They just do an excellent job with descriptors, with pulling you into a story, taking you on a story that you never heard of before. So much. I read Freshwater 2019? I need to revisit it, actually. But I read it in 2019, and it is their debut, and it mirrors a little bit like their memoir. Well, I haven't read their memoir, but it is more or less a memoir in a sense. And at the time when I read it, I will say I was taken aback. But when I sat with the story, it is an excellent story. If you're getting into Akwaeke and Emezi, their work is vastly different. They jump from different genres, and right now they're in their fantasy genre, but literary, hands down, amazing. Honestly, anything they touch is amazing. But I think you should start with Freshwater, personally, if you're trying to get into Akwaeke and Emezi's work. And lastly, S.A. Cosby. Now, this is not necessarily the book I want you to start with. This is the only book, well, not the only book I have physical, but one of the books that I have physical. But S.A. Cosby is another great crime fiction author that I think a beginner should start with when you're reading and starting off with a book, because it's so juicy. But a lot of people, me and my friend Bridget, we did a whole where to start in S.A. Cosby's catalog for the anticipation of King of Ashes last year. And I always see people start with All the Sinners Bleed or Razor Blade Tears. You shouldn't be starting there, personally, to me. I think you should start with My Darkest Prayer, especially if you're seeing King of Ashes floating around and you're like, I want to read that next. No, read My Darkest Prayer, because it will inform, again, as I've been saying, it will inform you on why they write things they write. S.A. Cosby used to work, I think he used to work as a mortician, but I know he used to work in a funeral home. And that is why King of Ashes is the way it is, or it just informs you. So the first book that he has is centered around working in a funeral home. Yeah, it's centered around working in a funeral home. So I believe you should start with My Darkest Prayer. It is a great book. Also, it is very interesting to see the author's growth, personally. When you start at the end, of course, you're like, oh, wow, their work's so beautiful, it made me a fan. But what makes it even more endearing, if when you start from the beginning, you can see the growth in the author's work, and you're just like, wow, I've been with them through this whole entire journey of growth. I think that's the coolest thing about it. So I think for S.A. Cosby, I think anybody should start with My Darkest Prayer. My personal fave is Blacktop Wasteland. I think it's one of his excellent book. And the audiobook is jam-packed with action. It takes you on a journey. You're it's good. It's a good time. And I think that is one of his better books. I would say All the Sinners Bleed and Razor Blade Tears. Razor Blade Tears, we read it for book club, and I thought it was a great discussion, but I do lean more towards King of Ashes and Blacktop Wasteland as my top reads. That is the end of this video. If you like this and enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe, like, comment. Let me know if you read any of these authors. If any of these authors are your faves, where do you feel like people should start? Yeah, let me know. Let's chat it up in the comments, and we'll talk next time. Bye, guys.